Games are meant to be entertaining. Some play for fun, and that notion of fun can vary for different people. There are those who enjoy a great deal of challenge in their games, but there are some games that present obstacles that can be so frustrating that without a certain tactic, the effort and adventure of playing the game can dwindle away. And sometimes, games simply throw you into a situation wherein you do not know the proper strategies and can get punished for spending time simply to figure out how to survive. Such a feeling of frustration can be easily captured with these 15 video game bosses that would have been basically unstoppable if it were not for these tricks. The Queen boss fight from Ico. The Queen is the final boss of the game. The player starts the fight away from the Queen and must advance towards her. However, she periodically sends out dark shockwaves that encompass the entire lair. So as long as you have your sword, you are invulnerable. In the battle arena, you can use 2 stone pillars as cover from her attacks, both about twice as tall as Ico and as gray as the floor itself. They will be easily distinguishable by turquoise light waves that surround the pillars as the Queen's attacks collide with them. These are important. While Ico is invulnerable with his sword, he loses his weapon after he strikes the Queen and then becomes vulnerable. Whenever the Queen is hit, quickly hide behind one of the pillars and use that breathing time to scout for the weapon, plotting out a retrieval path so that you can pick up your sword for another strike. Also keep in mind that the pillars can be moved as well, which is essential since there isn't much travel time in between shockwaves, and your sword can be flown to any part of the room. With some patience and some help from your stone-faced friends, the Queen doesn't stand a chance. The Blargian Snaggle Beast. One of the earlier boss fights in the first Ratchet & Clank game, the Blargian Snaggle Beast fight takes place in a volcanic lair where your best friends are Clank, the ground below you, and some bridges. Friendship ended with Captain. Well, we'll leave players to experience the plot for themselves. For the most part, the boss fight is straightforward though. Fire your weapon at him and whittle down his health gauge. The fight is not so simple whenever the boss summons its shield though. So long as the shield is active, the boss cannot take damage and you cannot wait out the activation of the shield. In order to dispose of it, lead the Snaggle Beast over to one of the wooden bridges. The bridges cannot sustain the weight of the Snaggle Beast, and the lava bath the boss takes will remove its shield. There are 3 bridges in the arena, each to be used periodically throughout the boss fight. The final lava dunk that the Snaggle Beast is treated to will also mark its exit from the game. Nice knowing ya. The T-078 from Resident Evil Code Veronica. There are 2 confrontations with the T-078 variant of the Tyrant, one of the most respected creations of the Umbrella Corporation, among the other things that they do for the world. Your second fight against the Tyrant T-078 takes place in the cargo hold of a plane. You can kill the boss manually using your knife and weapons, but there's also another option for damage. Nearby the starting point of the fight, there's a computer module to Claire's left, easily identifiable by bright red and blue buttons. By using it, you can send a large crate to Claire's right at high speed toward the Tyrant. If the T-078 has health remaining, then it will climb back into the plane, but if you've sufficiently damaged the monster beforehand, then the crate will explode, and the Tyrant T-078 will be nothing but 0. Even if you do not use the crate to kill the boss, it can be used during the fight to create space between Claire and the Tyrant. Boolossus from Luigi's Mansion. The Boolossus is one of the major boss fights in the game, guarding the blue spade key that opens up the final section of the mansion. You cannot damage the Boolossus by waiting it out or running behind it. Instead, once transported to the creepy boss fight lair, Luigi must direct it to the icy unicorn statues in order to actually make the Boolossus vulnerable. It bounces around the arena and doesn't alter its trajectory until after it makes contact with the ground. Using your vacuum to direct the boss to the icy pin tip of the unicorn statues on either side of the lair makes the fight a lot easier. Otherwise, you're stuck dealing with the awkward and difficult to direct movement of the gargantuan ghoul. When the boss is popped by a unicorn statue, it's at this point that the true form of the boss is revealed. Boolossus is a combined mass of many boo ghosts, all of which must be sucked up by the poltergust in order to conclude the fight. Imbue your poltergust with the power of ice, freeze as many boos as you can before they come together, and repeat the process until the Boolossus is no more. The Fear from Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater. The Fear is one of the boss's subordinates, collectively known alongside the boss herself as the Cobras. Each of the boss fights are themed after a particular emotion, but the Fear's confrontation marks an especially unique boss fight. You see, the Fear is a sniper who's also agile enough to leap along treetops, making him difficult to attack simply by aiming and shooting. The fight is placed in the woods without any immediate knowledge of where the Fear is, save for the thermal goggles, because the Fear aims to keep himself hidden via agility and camouflage. This isn't a conventional boss fight, wherein you see the Fear at all times, making himself open to your attack. You must discover him and damage him, all while keeping yourself safe. Interestingly enough, this fight is also one of the most exploitable. One such method is to take advantage of the Fear's stamina meter. The Fear spends time sniping from above, but after enough time will need to descend in order to eat and replenish his stamina. By shooting poison dart frogs or the poisonous fly agaric mushrooms, or collecting these items and scattering them around the arena, the Fear will be poisoned or stunned if he consumes them. Being poisoned also prevents him from recovering his stamina, making this fight much easier and not something to be afraid of. The Pursuer from Dark Souls 2. If there could be a list of series for which hints could help out the players, one could find few comparable options as the notorious Dark Souls series. Dark Souls 2 features an imposing boss named the Pursuer, really earning his name with his floaty dashes and menacing armor. It moves quickly and deals incredible damage with one swift sword strike. However, it does take more damage from strike attacks and lightning attacks. And an even better option in your second mandatory encounter with the boss is to use the ballista in the sunset-lit arena to attack it. It might be awkward to spend time directing the boss to a position that's right in front of the aiming trajectory of the ballista, but your patience will be rewarded by taking off a heavy portion of the boss's health. You can stick to using the ballista or finish him off with conventional melee attacks, but with this tactic the sun will sooner set on the Pursuer. SHUB-NIGGURATH from QUAKE. The SHUB-NIGGURATH boss is hideous and ugly. It represents the ugly reality of the world of Quake, and your final obstacle to clearing the first Quake game. End this boss, and the hellish nightmare of Quake concludes until the next Quake game. As fitting for a final boss though, the SHUB-NIGGURATH cannot be directly damaged via your weapons. Instead, what the player must do is navigate the boss lair, killing some extremely powerful Vors and Shamblers in your way. When you first see the mysterious and confusingly hideous mass in the center of the boss room, all due respect, your aim is to reach the opposite side of the room. There's a teleportation portal that will instantly kill the boss under a certain condition. Once there, and with whatever enemies defeated or alive, your goal is to keep an eye out for the floating spiked sphere and wait until it flies through the center of the SHUB-NIGGURATH. The spiked sphere flies back and forth, so it's not as if the player only has one opportunity. Your problem is evading attacks from elsewhere. Once the spiked sphere passes through the boss, pass through the teleportation portal, walking towards the completion of the game. What a pleasant way to solve that problem. Nihilanth from Half-Life. Welcome to another final boss that cannot be straightforwardly damaged without knowing where and how to attack first. The Nihilanth is a strange white floating monster that defies description but also doesn't appreciate your own defiance. In the face of attacking 3 yellow crystals in the battle arena that are approximately level with the Nihilanth itself, this fight will be much more manageable. The crystals are not hard to miss. They jut out and contrast from the dark battle arena. Just be aware that in this boss fight, the Nihilanth can fire green energy orbs that teleport you away from it into one of 3 separate arenas that you must navigate in order to return to its lair. Though this does provide the benefit of extra ammo, once the 3 yellow crystals are destroyed, the Nihilanth's vulnerability will be marked by a lack of purple energy orbs above its head, and now's your chance. Boxer Bomberman from Super Bomberman. The boss of the 4th world can be pushed around from your bombs, but that tactic on its own is not going to be enough to advance further in the game. The boss arena looks standard enough, no gimmicks or holes. If your bomb fire makes contact with the boss, it does get pushed backward, but the only way that the massive Boxer Bomberman actually takes damage is for you to use your bomb to push it towards the electricity that lines the arena. This may sound simple enough, but the problem lies with the boss's unorthodox movement, who frequently travels in diagonals and has an awkward floating pattern, where it repeatedly starts gliding slowly, then sprints, and then abruptly stops. Additionally, the bomb detonations must be timed so as to push Boxer Bomberman into the electricity. This boss in this fight will have to be damaged like this 17 times, and the remote control item will certainly help, but your movement and timing can eventually secure the victory. And if you want to try the boss out for yourself, try this password, 2174. No spoilers in a password, right? Mr. Freeze from Batman Arkham City. This is one of the most complicated boss fights in the game, and without knowing what to do, it can seem bewildering for players. You can't use the same attack repeatedly. Instead, you must use one of a dozen different options in order to damage Mr. Freeze, as he adjusts his suit so as not to be vulnerable from your most recently used attack after you manage to land it on him. You can start your fight against him with the silent takedown, but following that, you'll have to utilize several other options in order to defeat the Cold Killer. The number of hits that are required to defeat him change in accordance with the difficulty level of the game, with a new game requiring 9 different offensive options. Only 3 are required for easy mode, while normal and hard require 5 and 8 respectively. It's a very unconventional boss fight that'll test the adaptability of players in the game, but Batman is well known for his creativity and adaptability, and with those same traits you can put Mr. Freeze's ambitions on ice. The third mechanical elephant from Medieval 2. Don't like clowns? Well, that's fine. In this circus arena fight in Medieval 2, the Freak Show's stage, you are pitted against the last in a series of mechanical elephant abominations. The robot elephant fiend follows a circular path between the audience rows and the center of the stage, firing energy bolts at you all the while. In order to damage this freak show in The Freak Show, progress to the center of the arena and follow the arena's radius until you see super-powered magnets that carry metal scrap heaps overhead, near the top of the screen. Opposite the magnets' positions should be levers that you can trigger that'll drop the metal onto the elephant robot, damaging it significantly. Repeat this 2 more times, and the show's over. Draygon from Super Metroid. Super Metroid is a widely lauded game, but fighting against Draygon may not be one of its more appreciated aspects. It's not as if players can't just attack the boss directly, but there is an alternate method that's more expedient than the conventional way. When Samus drops down into the boss's lair, players should immediately notice 2 yellow turret structures that match the color of the arena but still stand out, and still fire missiles at Samus. Destroying them not only has the benefit of rendering them inoperable, but the electrical circuitry that remains exposed can be used to damage Draygon through connecting with the grapple beam and establishing a damaging electrical current. If the current that you create makes contact with Draygon's weak point, her stomach, that's easy damage against the green monster. A tactic for people who have places to be, because Draygon certainly has nowhere to go after this fight. The Icon of Sin from Doom 2. Marine, meet ugly. The Icon of Sin is the final boss of Doom 2, and is as ugly as sin. Or perhaps one such definition of it at least. Ugly here is a demonic goat head placed onto a wall, with its brain red and exposed, and from its cranium spawn the same spawn that have harassed the doomed Space Marine. This same icon is seen throughout the game and in the boss's lair. As you enter the Icon of Sin's arena, you immediately see a wide open space with the boss opposite you. Your goal is to change the elevation of different parts of the stage such that you can activate a platform in the center of the stage. Ascend the stage by activating panels with the Icon of Sin on them until you reach an alcove with a white skull and green eyes. Activate that and the platform in the center of the stage and in front of the final boss will periodically descend and ascend, leaving you with an opportunity to climb aboard. Wait until the pillar descends so you can land on top, then once the pillar ascends, wail on the boss. Keep in mind that the Icon of Sin will still respawn enemies over time, and you will not be safe simply staying on the platform, as the goat demon on the wall can fire projectiles at you. You can, however, try for a jump onto the floor right below the Icon of Sin with armor and health if you so need. With some patience and perseverance, you can close out this fight. Bowser from the Super Mario Bros. Series. This most recognizable and traditional boss fight against Bowser places you in a lair at the end of a castle pathway, wherein you stand on one end and Bowser on the other. A bridge separates you both, but Bowser also has an axe behind him. Bowser, however, never makes use of this axe in his fights against you. Instead, he simply relies on evading via jumping or breathing fire at you at different elevations. Bowser isn't like any of his other Goomba or Koopa Troops goons, because jumping won't work. But going for that curiously placed axe behind him is the key. And this is all it takes to end the fight, because once Mario or Luigi makes contact with the axe, the bridge that Bowser tries to attack you from collapses, and Bowser falls into the red-hot lava lake below. This tradition is upheld throughout several Mario games, including Super Mario Bros., Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels, and further codified in the new Super Mario Bros. Series and in Super Mario 3D Land, which unfortunately replaces the trusty axe with a button that has a skull on it. This time-tested tactic works on real Bowsers, fake Bowsers, and skeletal Bowsers. Dr. Eggman in Starlight Zone Act 3 from Sonic the Hedgehog. Is it Eggman or Dr. Robotnik, or something in between? In any case, typically Sonic damaged Dr. Eggman's Eggmobile by colliding with it directly. However, on his battle arena, there are 3 seesaws, and Dr. Eggman drops spiked mines periodically while moving back and forth through the stage. The spiked mines detonate after a period of time. This presents 2 offensive options. Either jump onto the opposite end of a seesaw once a mine lands on the other end, or watch as a mine falls onto one end of a seesaw, stand on the opposite end, and then use the resulting launch opportunity to jump and deal direct damage to Dr. Eggman. The bad doctor may seem inaccessible at the beginning, but with this hint, Sonic can land another in a long line of victories against the foul villain. And that's it for this roundup on boss fights. Don't let yourself get gimmicked out by boss fights with unconventional vulnerabilities. Similarly, use some of these tips to expedite your fights against bosses so as to save some time. Saved time is gaming time, and that can be spent gaming more, perhaps until you run up against another similarly frustrating boss fight. But should there be more nefarious encounters to deal with, maybe in the future GamingBolt will set up another video to assist you in your adventures. Till next time, bye. And that wraps it up. If you like what we're doing, please consider subscribing to our channel. We upload new videos daily. Also, don't forget to switch on the bell notification icon, that way you don't miss out on any of our videos.